Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. It's time for a Tobago segment, and this time we have a special for you. We actually have two guests here in Trinidad, and we have two guests in Tobago. Joining us in Trinidad, we have Miss Marian Carrillo, blood bank specialist at Trinity Blood Solutions, and we also have Mr. Kyle Young, member public relations team, and he's also living with sickle cell disease, SCD as we call it. And good morning and welcome to you.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. And from our Tobago studio, we have Dr. Kishi, acting specialist medical officer, pediatric department, Scarborough General Hospital. We also have Karen Lewis Irvin, president of the Tobago chapter, SISBD. Good morning and welcome. Our Tobago friends, can you hear us this morning?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to chat with us this morning. We really appreciate it. So we begin with our friends here in Trinidad. We have Mr. Young, who will give us a little bit of history about this entire organization and the connection with Tobago as well.
Can I first say hi to my friends?
Of course, most definitely.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Dr. Kishi.
Hi, Kyle.
Well, the SISBD, which stands for the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders, started some 30 plus years ago. It's a parent patient organization where the patients are encouraged, well, the word patient client, encouraged to take the lead in how the organization is operated. We have the advocacy role for 3 disorders. That's thalassemia, hemophilia, and sickle cell, each one having its own World Commemorative Day. We had thalassemia and hemophilia earlier this year, and on the 19th of June we have sickle cell disease being commemorated globally. So that's why we're on today to talk a bit about it. The society has been able to advocate and have lots of wins for people living with these disorders. Some of the key things are having available medication. Matter of fact, we have one of the best access to medication in all the Caribbean, and Trinidad and Tobago is well placed in terms of capacity, mainly through the process of the advocacy that the society has engaged over the last 30 years. We have people who've been there from the beginning who are still there working. The technical director, who's one of the founders, Dr. Waveney Charles, is still very much involved. She's there on a day-to-day basis, and then we have families we have children who have grown up. So we have they were babies, now they are parts of the executive, part of the general membership. So the society is a real mainstay, and we're trying to get the people to understand that a lot of the options that you have now are not things that came easily. It took a lot of work, a lot of consistency, and stick-to-itiveness.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we'd like to invite Dr. Kishi to just give us some background information. What exactly is sickle cell anemia? What causes it? What can we learn about it?
Thank you. Yeah, sickle cell anemia is an inherited condition that affects the hemoglobin in the body. Just as a way of explaining, your hemoglobin is the part of your blood that carries oxygen around the body. And it's within the red blood cells. So in a way, it's what makes your blood look red, because it carries oxygen. So in sickle cell, there is a defect, an inherited defect in the structure of the hemoglobin, so that instead of being very soluble and making the red blood cell flexible to be able to maneuver the vessels, on certain conditions, it becomes stiff. And then it gives the red blood cell the sickle shape. That is where it got its name from. A sickle is an instrument that is used in harvesting things. So when it becomes very insoluble, it makes it stiff and makes it sickle. And now the sickle red blood cells now have a problem delivering oxygen to the distant part of your bodies. Because as your vessels go from the heart down to the fingers, the toes, your brain, they become smaller. So in those smaller caliber, it's not able to maneuver through it, so it now gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, wherever it gets stuck, anywhere distal to that part does not get any blood supply. So the body, without receiving blood and oxygen and nutrients, will start to die off. That part that is not getting blood will start to die off, and that will cause pain. And that's where the pain of sickle cell, one of the complications of sickle cell, comes from. Very severe, intense pain. So until something is done to dislodge those sickle cells, you're not going to be able to overcome the pain. And with more time, it causes damage. It can lead to multi-organ damage. Yeah. Other things that are associated with the sickling, you have difficulty dealing with infections. They're having constant low blood count. So they have to be making blood I'm trying to use a word that is understandable to everybody. It's difficult. It's more if you and I make our bloods every 120 days, which is the red blood cells, their lifespan of their red blood cells can be as short as 10, 15, 20 days. So there's an increased production, and that takes its toll on the bone marrow and the body. Also, because of that, they have other complications like your spleen becoming very large or non-functional. So all the complications that are found in sickle cell is linked to the sickling process and its effect on the body. So with sickle cell, a lot of people think there's a misconception that it can be an infection. No, it is an inherited condition. It's a recessive disorder, which means you have to inherit the defect from the two parents for you to have the full-blown sickle cell disease, which is quite different from the sickle cell trait. The sickle cell trait, they have, majority of the time, they have no problem. They are normal, but they have an inherited defect from one parent and one normal hemoglobin. But once you have a trait, you pass it on to your children, and depending on who your partner is, if they have a trait or a sickle cell, they are at risk of having the full-blown sickle cell anemia. If somebody, for instance, who have a trait, has a child with somebody with a trait, every pregnancy that results from that relationship has a 25% chance of having the full-blown sickle cell, and a 50% chance of being the trait, and a 25% chance of being normal without trait. But just a note is that each pregnancy has no memory of what the last pregnancy chose. We've had two couples that are traits, and all their pregnancies, up to 4 children, end up being sickle cell anemia. So each time, the pregnancy is choosing the 25%. So that's why we're creating the awareness, especially now that in Tobago we have been having the universal newborn screening for sickle cell since 2008. A lot of people now know what they have, and they are being educated and empowered to make right choices so that they will try to reduce the prevalence of in a society. Once a person in traits have a child with somebody with full-blown sickle cell, and there are different types of full-blown sickle cell, every pregnancy from that relationship has a 50% chance of being the full-blown sickle cell, a full-blown 50% chance of being trait, and none of them will be normal. So the newborn screening, in addition in helping people make informed choices, it also enables us to diagnose those who have the full-blown sickle cell early, and we start intervention early, and so reduce the morbidity, which is the different illness that can result from it, and death from it.
Wow.
So we will encourage, we at the moment are the only hospital in the country that does it, but I know Port of Spain is really working hard to institute the universal sickle cell training for screening for the newborn. So it's something that can be encouraged and should be encouraged, because it makes a lot of difference to the outlook of the disease itself.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kishi. That was so informative. Thank you so much for sharing that. We'd also like to bring into the conversation Ms. Karen Lewis-Irvin. She's the president of the Tobago chapter. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. I understand that you started the Tobago chapter. What would have led to this?
Well, it came out from a bad. My son was in a motor vehicle accident, and because of this, the society in Trinidad came and introduced themselves to me because we couldn't get the medication and they were able to get it for me. So because of this, they asked me to start the society all over again. And I decided to take up the challenge.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And we'd also like to welcome into the conversation Ms. Marian Carrillo, Trinity Blood Solutions. What led to you actually starting this organization?
I am a part-time lecturer in blood banking at COSTAT, and I've noticed a lot of my students, after I taught them, they would come back and tell me, Miss, we're doing something different in the labs. And having worked in the blood banks myself, I realized that there's no set standard. So with Trinity Blood Solutions, what I try to encourage is different labs to set a standard in how they do their testing pertaining to blood banking. Some of it also relates to transfusion medicine, which would involve getting red blood cells and other blood products prepared for patients with sickle cell disease or hemophilia or thalassemia.
Great.
So the reason was to set a standard for testing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Mr. Young, June 19th is World Sickle Cell Day. What's on the agenda?
Well, starting today, this is our lead-off event, and then on the 18th, we're having what we call two chats, one at the Scarborough General Hospital, another at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Port of Spain General Hospital location will be at Ward 44. And then San Fernando, I'm not sure their location, but they can give you some more details. We have one member who's going to write articles on sickle cell disease, from the perspective of local audience, and we are to also join the labor celebration somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago to talk about how it intersperses in the working population. This is anybody working in public sector or private sector can be affected by this challenge. I'm saying challenge because we try to give it a positive spin now. The fact is that a lot of people are not even aware of their status, as Dr. Kishi mentioned. They have newborn testing. We're hoping that's going to get started within a couple of months here in Trinidad. But the whole presence of sickle cell is very common, but it's not commonly known. So we have a couple of guidelines. Our stats, for example, is that 1 in 10 people of African and Indian descent living in Trinidad and Tobago will have sickle cell. That doesn't matter whether it's a disease or a trait. And because those combined ethnics make about 76% of the population, we're talking about over 100,000 people that could be living with it, if my numbers are correct. If they're incorrect, I apologize. But the fact is, it's a lot of people. And most of our focus is on sickle cell disease for good reason. There are two main components. I live with SC. We have those who live with SS. But within the community and with conversations people here and overseas, we brought to the understanding that people living with sickle cell trait need to pay attention as well, not only for what they can pass on, but how it can affect their self over time, because their body doesn't speak to them. They're quite healthy, but we've had reports where people in high intense physical activities, if it's not well managed, I want to make that point very clear.
Yes.
They call my technical director, we're very, very intensive. It doesn't make clear. If you don't manage your trait properly, you can have, it has led to something called sudden death syndrome, and that is in sports, professional sports. We have the American Football League talking about it. We have people who are in athletics talking about that, even the NBA. So these are just spin-offs. This illness is very, very specific. It deals with you as it pleases. There's no predictability. There are common principles, but you have to ensure that self-care.
Yes.
I'll quickly mention these tenets that, if I'm allowed. So we have self-care. You start with self-care. And once you know that you have this thing, now you're growing, you make sure you test, what type of scenario you're dealing with. Parents, of course, once you have sickle cell disease, your parent will have the trait. Blood donation, a key thing. All the disorders that we deal with need blood at some point in time. And that leads to a key thing called iron overload, which is treated with chelation, which I guess someone will expand on. And when it comes into care now, once you do as much as you can and you go into the public sector or even private sector for care, prompt admittance and pain-free. Pain-free is relative. Pain-free discharge is a key goal. So that covers a whole range of things that we may not get into it all today. And then one of the things I'd like to slow down and speak about is family integrated care, where we have your family allowed to engage you at the A&E. Crowding is normally a challenge, but if people have the opportunity to be with their loved ones, because pain management is really neuro, yes. You are comfortable if you know someone's there caring for you. They have been in different treatments. If there's time, I'll go into it some more, but family integrated care is certainly something we want to request.
Right. Okay, great. So just to as we get ready to wrap, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I'd just like to invite our Tobago friends to just give us some closing comments on what's on the agenda for June 19th in Tobago.
On the agenda, we're planning an awareness drive. We're planning to set up on the 18th because the 19th is a public holiday, so we want maximal attendance of the public. We'll have a booth and we'll be handing out leaflets and creating awareness. I just want to say that we encourage those people who are affected by the disease in Tobago to join the society. Yeah. Like Carl said, it's an advocacy group and there's strength in numbers. Just to reinforce what Carl said, from our data since we started screening, 1 in every 6 person in Tobago, or the babies that have been born since then, carry the trait. And since then, we've diagnosed about 38 babies since we've been screening them. So it's something that is very prevalent in the society, and we need to be involved and aware and take steps to improve our health. Having sickle cell is not a death sentence. We have sicklers who properly managed have lived very productive life, achieved high achievers. So it's something that can be well managed, but people have to be informed and be educated.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both from Tobago, ladies. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Hopefully we can have more conversations like these. We wanted to talk a little bit more about iron overload and all of that. So thank you. Once again, we'll have a follow-up session very soon. And to my friends here in Trinidad, thank you so much for taking the time. And we hope to have some more conversations like these. All right?
Okay.
All right, so we take a short break, a whole lot more when we return. Stay tuned.